How you prepare for a golf tournament?
Well, I hit balls maybe 20 minutes, putt a little bit, smoke 4 or 5 cigarettes, drink 3 Diet Cokes, and go to the first tee. Some days I won't even go to the range.
Here we go. Welcome in to another edition of the Daily Puck Drop. It is Tuesday, August 20th, broadcasting from the Puck Sports Studios, built by Limbach Lumber. Contractors, talking to you. Hey, they offer free deliveries. Did you know that, contractors? From everything from a whole house package to a homeowner DIY projects. They've got the largest stock moldings in the Northwest. They've got old school service. They're going to take care of you top to bottom because they've been doing it since 1930. They know what they're doing over there at Limbach Lumber. Give them a call, contractors and do-it-yourselfers, 206-782-3487. Did I mention this again? They offer free deliveries. Who else offers that? Nobody. Visit them online at limbachlumber.com. Welcome in. Daily Puck Drop. We do it every single day. We drop new episodes at 10 a.m. Guest content gets dropped at 1 o'clock on all the platforms. We appreciate however you take this podcast in, whether it's via YouTube. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Number one, subscribe, please. Leave comments, suggestions, feedback. I try to get back to you as much as I can, and I do appreciate all of the feedback. If you're on Apple and Spotify, other podcast platforms, please subscribe, leave a comment there as well. I like to read them and feel better about myself. You can follow me on all the different platforms as well, on Twitter and on Instagram at Puck2040. TikTok is at Puck_sports. And Facebook, just search Jason Puckett. We put up all of our video clips from the shows on Instagram, Facebook, and, of course, TikTok. All right, here we go. What's on the Daily Puck Drop today? I'd like to avoid talking about the Mariners, but we're going to have to talk about the Mariners. We'll touch in a little bit on the Seahawks, some injury news, good and bad, I guess. An obvious decision that came from Pullman. We'll touch in on John Mateer being named the starting quarterback. We're going to tease because we have our debut of our 2 new college football podcasts that will come out later this afternoon up at pucksports.com. And then, again, all the other different channels, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. You guys know them all. I don't need to repeat them every single time. But now I'm in that habit of always repeating them, so I guess I do that. But we've got our Old Crimson podcast. With my dear buddies. Jim Moore is back again doing it. Of course, he's on the Daily Puck Drop 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but he's back doing the Old Crimson podcast, along with former All-American safety at Washington State, Paul Sorensen, who was just a tremendous football player back in the day when, black and white TV, a terrific broadcaster for the Cougs back in the day with Bob Robertson. They're back. So the first edition of that will be released later today. A big thanks to our sponsors, the Cougar Collective, cougarcollective.org, the NIL arm for Washington State. Big shout out to Luke and Tim and everybody associated with the Cougar Collective. Join the 1890 Club. If you're a Cougar fan, want to support student athletes, just $18.90 a month. And again, that's the cost of going out to lunch one time. So if you can afford it, it would be great to support those student athletes. And, of course, you can go to cougarcollective.org and search where you can find the Old Crimson Lager. They brewed a beer, Pike Brewery, teamed up with the Cougar Collective to make our own beer, which is just sensational. And it's damn good, by the way. Great design, too. Whoever designed that can, kudos to you. It's phenomenal. Proceeds of those sales go to the Cougar Collective. Also, the other sponsor of that, Flat Stick Pub, Andy Largent, who has just been sensational. I'm going to tell you, Andy is one of those guys, I think I need to stop calling him. Be like, Andy, I got an idea about something. Hey, do you want to be a part of it? Sure, no problem. I think eventually that's going to wear out. But Andy's been great. They've got locations all across the state, from Redmond to Bellingham to Spokane. It is great for company events, Flat Stick Pub, but also for your kids. I've taken my kids there many, many times, especially the Spokane location, which is great. All the great games they have there, and it's fabulous beer menu. great food, great pizza, great appetizers, everything. So Flat Stick Pub, big thank you to Andy and the crew for sponsoring the Old Crimson podcast. Again, visit their website at flatstickpub.com. And brand new this year, we do have another podcast covering college football, the Puck the Huskies podcast. How about that name? I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, if we're going to do a Husky podcast, you might as well have a little fun and play on words. And our first episode, again, coming out at 3:00 today on all the different platforms with two of my favorite people. And then I had the pleasure of working with them for both of them. Elise Woodward, who has been the sideline reporter for Husky football for 20 plus years, she says it in the show. I can't remember, 21 years, I think, and is just the best. Of course, we worked together long time at KJR. And, I just love Elise to death. And then Jordan Reffett, longtime former defensive tackle for the Huskies, who, if you followed the radio show, myself and Jim had Jordan on a lot every time, especially before the Apple Cup. And Jordan's great. And what I love about both those people is that they just get it. And they've got a good sense of humor. And they'll take shots at me, and they took shots at me in the first episode. We're going to take shots at them, but we're going to have fun with it. And I thought it was important. Before all you Coug fans yell at me and want my card pulled or something, just understand what I'm doing here. All right. We got a bigger audience, and we have a lot of Husky fans that, listen to the radio show, and Husky fans that watch this and listen to this, and we'd give them a little something to chew on. We're throwing them a bone, but I like it because I as much as I hate what's happened to college football, I love college football, and I can't quit it. I just can't. And this year, the thought process of one, I was always going to do the Cougar one, but the thought process of doing the Husky one was, this is just going to be an insane year, right? Just a crazy year of football in general in college, but then just the Huskies and all these other schools, navigating these different schedules, different rivalries. And I went to approached Jordan Elise months ago, and they jumped right on board. They said, yep, yeah, no problem. Big thanks to our sponsor, Georgetown Brewery. Yeah, I had to get a couple of Huskies to sponsor that. And Roger and Manny, who are two just diehard Husky fans, jumped on board. So they will be the proud sponsor of Puck the Huskies podcast. Both of those podcasts will come out every week, every Wednesday. And I think what we're going to do is we transition our fall schedule. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. Those won't be incorporated, I think, into the live shows, just because they're going to be too long. And we'll just have those as kind of standalone shows that will be released at a specific time every single Wednesday. All right, we'll get more on that. And before we wrap it up today, of course, we do Hey, What the Puck at the end of the show. We got something on Michael Penix Jr. that I want to touch on because it's intriguing what's going on in Atlanta. And I'm not a smart man, but I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know what else you want to say about the Mariners. I have no idea. It's the same storyline. It's rinse and repeat. I mean, they get great starting pitching. They can't hit. They strike out. A pitcher looks dominant against them, although Gavin Stone was having a nice season anyways. They just are terrible. This is beyond code red. We're beyond whatever is beyond code red. We are behind it. They're 64-62 now on the season. 5 games back of Houston, 6.5 back of the wild card. I mean, I'm trying to be glass half full here, but boy, I at this point, does anyone right now see them pulling out of this? What do we got? 36 games remaining in the season. I have no confidence they're going to pull out of this. I got zero, absolutely zero confidence that they're going to find themselves back into the postseason. At one point, you thought excuse me, I have to stop smoking. Kidding, I don't smoke. At one point, you thought, okay, if they don't get the division, God, the wild card's kind of coming back and play. You can forget about the wild card now. I mean, they beyond running out of time. And it's just the same formula. A 3-0 loss to the Dodgers. They get 2 hits in the game. They strike out 12 times. And Brian Wu pitches his ass off. Goes 6 1/3. Gets in the 7th inning one more time. Should he have finished the 7th inning? I don't know. Gives up 2 earned runs. That's it. He can't make any mistakes. None of these guys can ever make a mistake on the mound. Ever. And if they do, it's over. The second, and I'm trying to blank who hit the home run. Was it Lux? Gavin Lux hit the home run? The second he hit that home run, I think we all just said the same thing. I'm watching the game doing some work, and I'm like, it's over. I mean, it's all. How many other fan bases feel that? That just on one home run, you're like, it's over. That's not good. Most fan bases would be like, it's only 1-0. We can scratch it back. And then when old Yimi Garcia comes in, and he's been a train wreck in the last 3 or 4 outings. Jesus, 4 earned runs in his last 3 appearances. And he serves up a 2-run shot to a guy that hasn't played months. He's been out for months. And he cranks a 2-run home run to right field. And at that point, when he hit that, if you had a little shred of, I think they can come back, that was immediately erased with that 2-run home run. Everybody, you all knew it. We all knew it. No way. There's not a chance in hell they're going to come back from that. 20th quality start since the All-Star break. This was in the paper, Ryan Divish game story, which, let's be honest with you, Divish just, took that from the Mariners notes, probably. All right. 20th quality start since the All-Star break. They have lost 11 of those games. How hard that is to do. To have that much success as a pitching staff, but because your offense is so putrid, you've lost 11 of those starts. 8th shutout of the season. Gavin Stone, who again is a nice young pitcher and is having a good season, tied his career high in strikeouts in the 3rd inning. He had 8 strikeouts through 4. He ends up with 10. I guess I was kind of half watching the game a little bit. And then when I look back, after the game and I saw that, I'm like, he tied it in the 3rd inning. He struck out 6 of the first 9 batters he faced. And just threw it. I mean, there was, correct me if I'm wrong, it really didn't look like he was trying to surprise anyone either. It just looked like, I'm going to throw it kind of down the middle, and I'm going to challenge every one of you guys, and I want to see if you can hit it. And none of them can hit it because they're a terrible offense, because they've been constructed poorly. And we'll get into this blame game that, and I don't want to sit here and defend Scott Servais for a second, but boy, God, some people, I really, you are impressive how you're able to put all the blame on one person and don't want to blame the person that constructed the team. It's amazing. But they're all to blame, and we'll get to that in a second. Their offense is pathetic. Their approach is pathetic. There is no approach. There's been no approach to their offense for 9 years. Like, if I ask you this, what's Mariners baseball? I don't know what it is. I know what their pitching does, but what's Mariners baseball? They always talk about the Cardinal way. What's the Mariners way? What is it? What are they trying to do up there? What are they trying to accomplish? What are they trying to accomplish in the minors? What are they trying to teach their young hitters as they come up? And I know everyone's excited about this young wave of players coming up. They also had young players that haven't done anything that they've drafted. They've developed a few, but, I mean, Cal Raleigh certainly has developed. Kyle Lewis looked like he was on his way to developing. And then just that, injuries robbed Kyle Lewis of what should have been a just a terrific career. Had the potential to be a terrific career. Evan White failed. But did they try to change Evan White? I mean, Evan White has said that, I believe, publicly or maybe privately. I'll bring that up with Brad Adam today. Evan White was not a home run hitting guy. Then they wanted him to change his swing approach, his launch angle and all that, and change the way he went about it, and he struggled. And then I think ultimately he went back to trying to hit doubles and in line drives and things like that. But it was probably too late. Kelnick, obviously they didn't draft Kelnick, but they got Kelnick young enough to try and develop him, and that didn't work out. So as excited as everyone gets about Emerson and Cole and Young and Harry Ford, who knows? Their offensive approach throughout the minors and the majors hasn't been good. They don't have a terrific track record of that. You throw Julio on there, even though they didn't draft Julio, but they, in essence, drafted Julio. But their offense just continues to be the problem every single year. It's like the Seahawks with their offensive line, but it's just the Mariners' offense. They currently rank 26th in runs scored. They're 27th in on-base percentage. They're 28th in OPS. They lead the league in strikeouts. They're going to break the record for strikeouts. They currently have 1,294. The record is set by the Twins back in 2023, 1,654. They most likely will break the record. And it's just the same song and dance every single year. And I get the, we talked about it with Duquette on Monday, and even with the go-to guy on Monday on the Daily Punch Drop. Had they been swept by the Pirates, would they have made a managerial move? I don't know really what I said yesterday. I can't remember, but I think I said I don't think they would have done anything. I just don't. There's 37 and 36 games left in the season. At this point, what are you going to do? Who's going to take over? Who are you really inspired by on that team that's going to come in there and somehow turn this around? And is making a managerial move going to spark this team? They fired the offensive coordinator. That didn't do it. They released and traded a beloved player in Ty France. That didn't work. Nothing's worked because they're not good offensively. And no move is going to make them better. And I do believe the timing of making such a move to somehow ignite your team is long gone. I think you've heard the examples of, the Phillies. Look what the Phillies did. Rob Thompson took over for Joe Girardi. That was like in the first half of the season. They were 22 and 29. Season barely underway, and they fired Girardi. And then Thompson took over. There's 36 games left in the season. It's not even comparable to what the Phillies did and what the Mariners would do. That needed to happen months ago if you wanted to make a move. That was like last year, when they thought about making the move when they were on that just horrific stretch. And I think it was that home series, I think, against the Angels, and they didn't do it. But everyone's going to have, their ideas of who is to blame. It appears Scott Servais, for most, is in the crosshairs of the anger from the fan base and others. I'm going to sit here and defend Scott Servais. He seems like a great guy. I think he makes managerial mistakes. They all do. We all do. I don't know if he's been with Dipoto for so long, so maybe this is just the way he is. I'd love for a manager to allow Field to come back into the sport a little bit more. I think he doesn't allow that. I think he dips too much into the analytics, but I think the organization dips too much in the analytics. I think they're too focused on the numbers. I think there's a time and place for all of it. I think they've strayed away from the human element of it, of baseball and of sports, but that's who they are. That's what they've become. I think it becomes a little bit predictable. It's robotic on how he manages at times, and I think I just wonder if he had his way, would he try to manage the sport a little differently? I like his demeanor as a manager. I'll say that about him. He does a good job, in my opinion, of the ebbs and flows of the season, the ups and downs. And I think the way that he maintains his composure helps them, for the most part, not get completely buried, where they find themselves kind of always hanging around. And for the most part, when they go through these stretches like they're in now, they do come out of it. I think that's a sign of a manager, for the most part, that does a good job. I don't know how his relationships are behind the scenes with his players. I don't. I don't know any of the players. I don't talk to any of the players. Maybe the players don't like him. I mean, we talked about it last year, the mistake he made with Cal Raleigh, being public with it. He shouldn't have done that. He should have had the backing of his catcher when he spoke out. He's made some mistakes as a manager, in-game mistakes for sure. But he manages the players that are given to him. And that's, I guess, when we start talking about, well, what's going to happen to these two if they don't make the playoffs? I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, I think something will happen. I don't know. I don't know what ownership thinks. No one can speak on ownership's behalf because they don't speak. Because John Stanton and Chris Larson are never public with anything. First of all, there's no one know. If I asked you what Chris Larson looks like, could you even picture him? I mean, I've seen pictures of him. I've seen him in person one time. Unassuming. You would just kind of looks like a fan. Not, doesn't dress nice or anything like that. Just looks like an everyday little fan. You would never know. Stanton's a little bit more visible. Doesn't do any interviews. I mean, how many interviews has he done this year? And you say, well, the owners usually don't speak out. That's true. They don't. I think he's done, I don't know if he's appeared on KJR this year. Maybe he did at the beginning of the season. I'm sure he went on Cairo. But he doesn't do a lot. It starts with ownership and in the off season when they didn't spend again. And then they want a pat on the back for what they did at the deadline of adding payroll. Added how much? What they had, $5 million? I mean, come on. They're raking it in over at Hatback Grill. That's nothing to them. Forbes had the report on how much revenue they made a year ago and how much they spent back into the payroll this year. They were ranked at 22nd or 23rd out of baseball in terms of the money that they reinvested it in the team. They don't do it. But what I don't understand is why we would give Jerry Dipoto a free pass. He's the one who's constructed this. He did. And he's been at the helm for 9 years. If they missed the postseason, they have to clean house. I mean, ownership's got to make a change. They've got to do it. But that's everything. They got to change all of it. That includes Jerry Dipoto and everybody involved. Justin Hollander, everyone associated with it. Clean house. Have somebody else come in and bring in their own manager. Because I think if you fire the manager, who are you going to get? You're going to get somebody that's going to come in and not mesh with him? What if they're outspoken about analytics? What if they say, I want more feel back in the game? I think this organization needs a veteran presence. How is that going to vibe with Dipoto and his staff? He couldn't get along with Mike Scioscia. That led to that relationship being derailed. He's done a lot of good things in the organization, has Dipoto. But this is what I find funny. So we want to praise Dipoto for building the pitching staff, which he should get credit for. But we don't want to lay any blame at his feet for producing, yet again, a putrid offense. For some, they don't think that's his fault. They think the offensive failure is whose fault? The players or Scott Servais, but not Dipoto. And then on the flip side of it is, why does Scott Servais just get blamed for the offense? He doesn't run the offense. Their philosophy is an organizational philosophy. But we want to blame Servais for the offensive failures, but then we don't give Scott Servais any credit for the pitchers. I don't. That doesn't make sense to me. They have been very good at drafting, trading, free agents, developing pitchers. They have failed, and this is Dipoto, miserably at trying to identify talent at times. You notice I said at times, because there are examples where they have, and this is where ownership comes into play. Because someone had texted me this or tweeted me or emailed me or something and said, I just think his offensive evaluation is terrible. Look at their track record. They don't ever get anybody that's good offensively. And really, their track record has been bad at it. Would you take Eugenio Suarez back? Would you take Teoscar Hernandez back? I mean, of course you would, in a heartbeat. I mean, give Jerry and his staff credit. They identified those guys. They got them. Why are they not here anymore? I mean, maybe they're not here because they thought they were going to fall off a cliff. And if that's the case, then that's on Jerry Dipoto. If Jerry Dipoto and his crew looked at the numbers and decided we think there's going to be a huge drop-off for both, we don't want to sign them, then that's on them. I think a lot of people, including myself, believe that the only reason those two guys aren't back here, financially. And who is that on? That's on ownership because they didn't want to pay them. They went cheap. When you go cheap, you get cheap talent, and you get these results. It's a long-winded way of saying that it's all connected. There's no one I mean, the Servais Dipoto debate, I just think is moot. I mean, it's just fire both of them. Fire one of them. I would just ask long-suffering Mariner fans like myself. Been saying it for, God, it feels like a decade. Nothing will change until John Stanton and Chris Larson and the rest of those cronies sell that baseball team. We've been telling you that for God knows how long. And it's the same song and dance. So there was a lot of this outrage in this last week about Servias and Dipoto, and I don't get outraged about it anymore because my stance is it doesn't matter who's coaching the team. It doesn't matter, honestly, at times who's really running the team, because I have zero confidence that this organization will truly ever care and want and be and desirable to win a championship with those people running the ship. Just don't. I don't think they don't have a burning desire to win. Their desire is to make money and run it like a business. And if they can win 88, 85 games a year, be relevant enough in August and September to where we all keep coming out and spending money and going to games and paying $50 for parking, telling you that's what they care about. You know what they wouldn't want? And I believe this. I really, truly do. Is to win a world championship like the Rangers and the next year be terrible. I think they'd rather just be this like, just kind of good year in and year out. I mean, that's what they've shown you. That's what they've been. So we'll see what happens. They're back at it today. Bryce Miller against Walker Buehler. The only thing good is the Bet M's summer under continues to shine. We're getting back to 500. We should have started it in the very, very beginning of the season because then we would have a winning record. But 40, 47, and 2. Total tonight is 8.5. Other news and notes. Seahawks, Connor Williams practiced for the first time, a couple of reps with the first unit. Then Oluwatimi took over there at starting center. But it's good to see Connor Williams back. Hopefully, fingers crossed that he is back there week 1 and makes his debut there against Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. Abe Lucas. God, it doesn't feel like Abe Lucas is going to be back. Mike McDonald says he doesn't know if he'll be ready for week 1. Still on that PUP. His comments yesterday saying, I don't really have an update, didn't sound encouraging there with Abe Lucas. There was video, Brady Henderson had it on Twitter, of him jogging up and down the field, I think in Tennessee at their joint practice. But it was like George Fant will be no doubt George Fant will start the season there at right tackle. Draymond Jones continues to be out. I mean, he's had a bunch of injuries and barely done anything at the start of training camp, and now as they're in practice, he's been out with a hamstring. This guy a lot of money, and he has not been available right now and did not have a great season last year, has been largely a disappointment. So, he needs to get it going. 4.5 sacks last year there for Draymond Jones. Over to college football. No real surprise with this one. No real surprise at all is that John Mateer was named the starting quarterback yesterday for my fighting, scrapping Washington State Cougars. If you listen to the radio show for the last few years, I love John Mateer. I have ball washed John Mateer forever. I have made John Mateer my personal fan favorite, and now I'm just fingers crossed that John Mateer is good. Because if John Mateer is not good, I'm going to hear it from a lot of you Cougar fans, and I get it. But I just think there's an element. There's a physicality. There's a dynamic aspect of John Mateer that I enjoy watching. The running ability that I don't think we have ever had over there for a starting quarterback. I think he possesses that. I think he's got a kind of a gamer sense to him. I think he's going to make mistakes. He's going to make throws where he thinks he can fit it into windows, and he's going to get picked off, and he's going to throw late and cross his body. But he's got a big, strong arm. Yeah, I think he's going to make better plays downfield. I was thinking about Cam Ward, that they never could really expose, and Ben Arbuckle's offense was the vertical passing game. As great as Cam was, his quick release, and at times, an NFL-style arm, one thing he can't do is throw the ball downfield. John Mateer does possess that. What John Mateer struggles at are those short, intermediate passes. But no real surprise that Mateer was named the starting quarterback. I like what he said yesterday. You can go find it. Coug fan, Greg Woods, I think, has video of it as well. Greg covers the Cougars for the Spokesman Review. And it's like what he said, that he knows that he's not a real vocal leader, and that he gets on guys a lot. Sometimes he's got to kind of catch himself to not grind on guys. Not about somewhat about perfection, but that he needs to be better in that department. I like guys when they admit what they're not good at. I know what I'm not good at. It's a long list of things, but I know what it is. But I like guys that know what they're not good at, and then admit it and say, I just need to get better in that department. I need to stop interrupting people. I need to listen better. I know that. You know that. I know. I'm trying. But yeah, I like what he said yesterday. Again, no surprise. I went over that first scrimmage, and I'd heard about the battle between those two, and I just came away thinking really not much of a battle. Speaking of college football, again, I've teased it earlier. We have 2 new college football podcasts that are going to be coming out today, 3 o'clock today on all the platforms. The Old Crimson podcast, which is brought to you by the Cougar Collective, cougarcollective.org, and Flat Stick Pub, and Puck the Huskies podcast. That's right. Talking Husky football with Jordan Reffett and Elise Woodward. That is brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. The Old Crimson podcast is my good buddies, Jim Moore and Paul Sorensen. And just a little teaser of what we talked about on our first episode was exactly the quarterback battle, John Mateer being named the starting quarterback. And then I asked Jim Moore, is he going to miss and Cam Ward? I got my wish, because John Mateer will be the starting quarterback. His ability to run and to use him in the running game, which I think just makes this offense that much more explosive, fun, and dynamic.
Well, I hope you're right. I listened to you nonstop last year singing his praises. I mean, like he was like a Heisman Trophy candidate or something. But
okay, now that
I in that camp, or that question that I asked about 100 Cougar fans, will you miss Cam Ward or will you not miss him? I'm not going to miss him, and I'm going to say that even if he tears it up down there in Miami. I'm looking forward to John Mateer. Let's go. Let's get him out there and see what we have with Mateer. I mean, Cam Ward, will he go down as one of the Cougar greats at quarterback? No. He was good, though.
I think you were limited in terms of what Cam could do, on that. And then he started getting creative on holding onto the ball for 14 seconds and trying to, play like he was in the schoolyard.
So, yeah, I'm not going to miss Cam Ward at all. More of that. It's like 50-plus minutes of the Old Crimson podcast with Jim Moore and Paul Sorensen. Again, brought to you by the Cougar Collective, cougarcollective.org, and Andy Largent, the fine folks there at Flat Stick Pub. We'll release those every Wednesday throughout the college football season, but our preview of the upcoming season will be available at 3 o'clock today on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, pucksports.com. All right, our Puck the Huskies podcast, which is brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, Manny and Roger, two fine Husky alums, Jordan Reffett and Elise Woodward. And I asked them, this was an interesting conversation because we and this kind of happened organically. I didn't even have this plan to even talk about, and we kind of went down this direction, but would they have preferred Ryan Grubb to be the Huskies head coach, and then their thoughts on new Husky head coach, Jed Fish? Would you guys have preferred that Grubb be the head coach?
Number one, I'm 100% happy with Coach Fish. I love Coach Fish. I think he's been awesome so far. He's done amazing in his short time at Washington. I love what he's doing. I love everything about him. I love his staff. I would have been happy if they hired Coach Grubb as well.
You're the CEO. And so, that's the thing with Ryan Grubb that I will say that it would make me hesitate right now is the fact that he's so good at the X's and O's. That's what he's now. Is he the one that wants to be behind the scenes and doing this other stuff? Maybe. We don't know. He's all about the players. He's all about recruiting and getting guys out there. He's been great. And I'll tell you, that guy is a grinder. He's working his tail off all the time. So I think Husky fans should be really excited just about the work ethic that he's bringing to you.
So that's, again, our Puck the Huskies podcast. Elise Woodward and Jordan Reffett. Again, we'll release those every Wednesday throughout the college football season. Big thanks to Georgetown Brewery for sponsoring that. But, again, that was a great conversation. We covered a lot. A lot of it was kind of looking back, the Kalen DeBoer exit. And I think Jordan brought some good points up that got it. And we, Cougar fans, we revel in all this, right? A little bit to a degree. Not to a degree, we do a lot. Is that you didn't even get for them, they didn't even get to really enjoy and embrace that season because he left and departed shortly after that national championship game. And I think there's some animosity and some bitterness, but from those two, from fans and alums, about how he exited. So it was great. We talked about the Fish impact. I don't know if you guys knew, but he is an NFL style of things. And Bill Belichick is helping out. We touch on that and just the outlook of the football team and the changing landscape of college football, and the rivalries are all dead, and the dismantling of the Pac-12. We cover it all, but real happy with both of these podcasts that are going to be coming out this fall. The Old Crimson podcast with Jim Moore and Paul Sorensen, and of course the Puck the Huskies podcast with Elise Woodward and Jordan Reffett. Hey, quick note: former Husky Michael Penix Jr. not playing in the final 2 preseason games. Something feels up with this. Why are they not playing him? Like Kirk Cousins didn't really do anything. I don't think did anything as well, and he's recovering from that Achilles injury. Now maybe they're protecting him because they don't. If something were to happen to Kirk Cousins, they don't want anything to happen to Penix. They've seen him in practice. That's been the word coming out of Falcons camp from Raheem Morris. I was stalling there because I couldn't remember Raheem Morris's name, but something just feels off about this, that would they start? They wouldn't start him, would they? They wouldn't start him over Kirk Cousins. I mean, they paid all that money to Kirk Cousins, right? Maybe it's just an insurance that they are not they don't think that Kirk Cousins will survive the year, and they don't want to expose Michael Penix in the preseason in case something happens to Penix. If something happens to him in the preseason and then something happens to Cousins and the regular season, then they're done. I don't know, but kind of unheard of that a rookie who likely will not play this year really has had 1 game in the preseason. That was against the Dolphins, which he looked good. And then nothing after that. Yeah. Worth monitoring. I think Michael Penix is going to be a star, by the way. Just duh. How about wow, that really going on a ledge there, Puck. But he's He's got it all. He's got an NFL arm. All right, we wrap up the Daily Puck Drop with Hey, What the Puck? Brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, your restoration company. That lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. Trent's going to help you out, and Trent loves the Huskies. Proud Husky alum. And Mark Morris High School. I was an R.A. Long guy. Didn't go to school there. I was the broadcaster for R.A. Long. Great team. Great rivalry between R.A. Long and Mark Morris. Anyways, give him a call. Give Trent a call. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. One of the best high school athletes I've ever seen came out of Longview, Washington. Kid by the name of Adam Perry. Anybody remember Adam Perry? Great basketball player and football player. When I was calling games there for R.A. Long, he was the starting quarterback as a freshman. I think he went – I know he did. He went and played at Bellingham. I think he was on the last team for Western Washington before they got rid of football. Hey, somebody fact check me on that one. If you know Adam Perry, hey, shout out to Adam Perry. Let me know. Leave a comment below in the YouTube comment section. All right. Our Hey, What the Puck? Mike Gunny is at it again. He is fed up with the NIL world and agents.
That's what I told the players. There's no negotiating now. Portal's over. All negotiations history. Now we're playing football.
You can enjoy
just coaching and playing football.
Conference and a 12-team playoff, everything being so different, just the newness of it.
Yeah, and you know the business side of what we do now is we have to have those conversations with them. You know, tell your agent to quit calling us and asking for more money. It's non-negotiable now. Going to start again in December. So now we're able to direct ourselves just at football, and that part is fun because there's been so much other stuff going on. It's been hard to really focus on football.
He'll be out of college football soon, right? I mean, this is a mess. None of these guys like it. And again, it's pretty rich that he's complaining about the NIL world. This is probably a guy this agent is calling the school nonstop, especially when he's off to like a 5-0 start or 6-0 start and leveraging them for more money, or, you know, they're going to threaten behind the scenes that Mike Gunny will leave and take a new job someplace else. So it's the irony is pretty rich here for Mike Gunny and these other coaches that are going to bitch and moan about this. But it's miserable. And you're going to see more and more college coaches leave. They're so tired of it and dealing with it. And whether they go coach the NFL or just whatever, high school, I don't know. But they'll get out of it because it's miserable. And what you're going to see is more universities like what Alabama's doing. And I know most schools do it now. They've got a guy. And we'll talk about this today with John Canzano. But Courtney Morgan has just got paid a bunch of money. He essentially is the general manager of Alabama. He'll handle all of it, and then DeBoer or the coaches get back to just coaching. But some of these schools can't afford to, hire guys like that. But Mike Gundy, fed up with agents calling his players. But again, it's your agents probably calling the athletic director at Oklahoma State when you're off to a good start, trying to get more money out of them. So I don't know, bud. You do the same thing. But I think a lot of college coaches is fed up with this current system, just fed up with all of it. And just how demanding it is, because it's nonstop. It's 24/7, 365 days a year. Not like the NFL where you get some time off and somebody else handles all that other stuff. College, you can't. You're recruiting, you're re-recruiting, NIL, transfer portal, all of it. That's not worth it, man. It just ain't worth it. All right, that's Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services, locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. Again, that number, 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, North Seattle franchise. Reminder, this is our last show, last Daily Puck Drop, till I return from a road trip from Glacier National Park. We'll be back on September 3rd with our shows leading up to the first Seahawks game. Our fall programming, full fall programming, is going to start on September 9th, that Monday, with the Daily Puck Drop going live at 10 a.m. on Twitter, on YouTube, and other platforms. We'll have more information on that that week of September 2nd when I get back from our road trip in Goldie. Hopefully she holds up and survives. Hopefully you'll miss me. We'll check in periodically. We'll have some content up there that that I'll tweet out while we're gone, including our Cougar and Husky podcasts. And but thank you. Need a little R&R. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Appreciate all of it. We'll have our daily guests coming up here today on Tuesday, John Canzano and Brad Adam at 1 o'clock. Also, our Old Crimson podcast, Cougar podcast, and our Puck the Huskies podcast, our season previews coming out today at 3 o'clock. Thank you. And if I don't say it enough, thank you. Thank you for all of it. This has been a whirlwind of 5 months. It's been awesome. It's the first time here. I'm going to step away for about 9 or 10 days and just kind of relax a little bit. But thank you for all the kind words, emails, texts, everything. Hopefully you're enjoying this. And hopefully starting September 9th, you'll enjoy it even more when we go live with our programming. We'll still podcast everything. We'll still have that element of podcast, long form with our interviews. But just want to thank you for everything. Without you guys, wouldn't be able to do this. And hopefully you continue to support this venture. Again, all new episodes of the Daily Puck Drop, 10 a.m., YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. And, of course, you can find everything up at pucksports.com. All right. We'll talk to you later. It's going to be a few weeks. But when we do talk to you, as always, we promise to be better.
No shirt, no shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for? We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!